Yo, what's going on? It's your boy Madara, back again once again. Gonna be covering One Piece chapters 1062 and 1063. The TCB scans dropped last night for 63, but I will be referring to the Viz translation for 1062. Um, there were a lot of my phone alarm. Sorry, there were a lot of translation issues. I wasn't gonna say a lot of them, but there were a few that stood out. Mainly talking about Dr. Vega Punk because this chapter does reveal more information about him. It is a separate body away from all of them. I know the TCB scans talked about the Stella or the satellite body, which let me look at that real quick. It says Stella written as main true body but pronounced as Stella, which means celestial star in Latin. So basically he's the star of the whole show. The other ones wouldn't be around if not for him, because I believe he's also the one who created all of the other bodies. They are all known together as SSG, the Special Science Group that Fujitora talked about. And so, yeah, his genius created 7 other versions of himself, which they all refer to themselves as Dr. Vega Punk. In this chapter, we know Shaka, or Logic, and let me also just go through all their names. Shaka is good, Lilith is evil, Edison is the thinker, Pythagoras is wisdom, violence is Atlas, and greed is York. And so Shaka is the logical one. He's the one who talks to Lilith and tells her that, hey, you let down your guard. That swordsman, talking about Zoro, the reason why he's so calm is because he knows he could kill you in an instant. And he also talks about Double Chow, Nico Robin, how they're the ones ready to pounce on you. You think you have the upper hand, but you got too close for comfort. And I just like how Zoro and Robin kind of catch stray clout in this chapter, because obviously Sanji's not going to do anything because he doesn't hit women. And Frankie and Usopp are totally too caught up in the fact that they're giant robots. Like, Usopp is like, he's in awe, but he's also terrified, and Frankie just thinks everything's cool. But he does take a little bit of a shot, because Usopp is like, oh, that like mecha's bigger than General Frankie. And so I do think Frankie should come out of this arc with a lot of upgrades, hopefully, because even though he did beat Sasaki in the last arc, I do want to see him progress even more so in the technical aspects, and what he can build, what he can accomplish, because he's going to meet his mentor. Now, we all know there's a saying in this world that you should never meet your heroes. Hopefully that's not the case for Frankie. I hope that he has a great meeting and conversation with Dr. Vega Punk. I do wonder how long this arc is going to be, because Oda did say back in SBS that when he does bring Vega Punk into the storyline, Vega Punk will be the one to reveal everything about Devil Fruits. So I'm wondering, how much is Oda going to give us with the reveals? Is he going to just kind of tease us, or is he going to just fully give us a deluge of information regarding Devil Fruits, about the world? How much can Vega Punk really reveal without going into the Void Century and all those things? But yeah, so again, Shaka, aka the Good. It looks like Daft Punk with like the helmet, but it's just the back of it, so you don't know if the black visor goes all the way in the front, or if it's just a helmet. Also, too, are they all women? So, like, did he build these cyborgs as kind of like his daughters he wanted to, or are some of them actually women as well? We just don't know. We see that Bonnie and them climb to the surface from where they were on the outskirts of the island. And when they get up there, they see all of this futuristic stuff. You see Stars and Stripes, you see the SSG, Atlas, the violent Vega Punk, makes these gloves that allows her to interact with light. Like, so it's just a bunch of holograms. That's stupid train in the background, man. The thing goes by like every 5 seconds. So excuse me as I cut the audio. Yeah, and now that's over. But yeah, it has these gloves that can interact with literal light. So you'll see her punch this dragon that obviously doesn't really exist, but she's again able to interact with light because of these gloves, and obviously we all jump to the conclusion that that the Straw Hats could incorporate this some way into their fighting styles or abilities, so they could fight someone like obviously Admiral Kizaru is the first one who comes to mind because he does have the glint flute or the Pika Pika no Mi, which is light powers, and so that would be a great buff to them. Obviously, Vega Punk is going to have a whole bunch of different inventions, and so yeah, you'll see Luffy and them, goof around a lot in this chapter, with the whole food. Wondering how would Sanji, feel about something like that is what a lot of folks brought up last week with this chapter. And a lot happens in this chapter, but also a lot doesn't happen. But it was still a good, solid chapter because you're getting to see Lucci, Stussy, and Kaku. They're being sent to the island to Egghead to go take out Vega Punk, and it's kind of like, wow, this guy is that much of a threat, or it's because he just knows too much, which is what Lucci is thinking, because he's also thinking like, does this have something to do with what happened to Lelucia Island? And Kaku and Stussy are like, hey, don't get us in trouble, with that. We're just here to do a job, and we're going to go home. But to talk about the SSG Kuma, this one doesn't have white hair. It has black hair. They refer to it as a brat. So obviously maybe because Vega Punk talked about in 1061, she said that she can't get rid of the innate desires and urges of living beings even though they're robots. So maybe he has a inclination to still feel like the original Kuma in some way. Maybe that's why Kaku was referring to it as a brat. And then obviously, as I said, 1063 came out, and another solid chapter. A lot of I'm surprised at what happened by the end of it, because I definitely wasn't thinking that we would get this fight already. But even going back to 1062's cover page, we see Chocolate Town is frozen over, the mayor is frozen on his knees. Then we get to 1063, and Cracker is frozen, and Brûlée is in the same frame, but Pudding has been kidnapped. So this obviously plays into that it was the Blackbeard Pirates, because the only one that we know who can flash freeze like this to this extent is Kuzan, aka Aokiji. And so seemingly he came to Cocoa Town to steal away Pudding, who's rumored to be, because of the Three-Eyed Tribe, she can read the poneglyphs as well. Kuzan is in cahoots, allegedly, or non-allegedly, with Blackbeard, because in 1046 it did say 2 intruders invade Chocolate Town. And so obviously that was Kuzan and maybe Shiryu of the Rain, or it was Lafitte. Or it could have been Abalo Pizarro, because we did see Vasco shot and Katarina Devon with Blackbeard on Amazon Lily, which was 2 weeks ago. And now in this chapter, 1063, we get to see Doc Q, Stronger the Horse, Von Augur, and Jesus Burgess and Blackbeard going against Law and his group. But let's start with the beginning of the chapter. We obviously see Luffy, Bonnie, and Chopper are full. And then Chopper does say, I bet they, talking about the crew, he says, I bet they'll all love the food machine except maybe Sanji. Obviously, Sanji is a natural cook. He likes doing everything by hand, so seeing everything come out through a machine might be a major turnoff to like Sanji. And so pretty much Atlas says her farewells after telling them, that they can eat all that they want, everything is theirs, pretty much. They also have a recycling dog that eats up everything, all the waste that Luffy and them leave behind. It says, if I don't run Riot, no one will. So I don't know who Riot is. Maybe it's a being, or maybe it's the machinery around there, and maybe that's what it's called, but that is what she says before she departs. And then the Straw Hats, or I'm not gonna say Straw Hats, Luffy, Jinbei and Chopper notice that these other robots suddenly come out, and then they're theorizing, well, maybe they felt safe after seeing Atlas interacting with the Straw Hat crew. And so Luffy goes and gets on some new clothes, which look cool except for the boots. Not feeling the boots on Luffy. They look better on Bonnie, but on Luffy, not really feeling it. I do like the lab coat though. That is pretty cool. And then pretty much right after that, Jinbei takes on a tropical shirt. So a lot of people that I saw on Twitter were referencing New Level Stitch, because a big alien dude in that movie, he wears a tropical shirt, so maybe Oda felt inspiration from that. Bonnie said that she was going to go off to go find weapons and deal with Vega Punk. And then Luffy notices that it's Akuma. He's like, is it just me, or is he looking at us? And apparently this Kuma is upset because they stole. It thinks that they stole from the store, but they just walked in and got on new clothes. Walking in, literally the machinery there changed them into those outfits. So obviously it has SSG on the outfits, and maybe it thinks that there are also co-scientists there to help out Vegapunk. But this robot police officer Kuma comes out and immediately charges them. And Luffy goes in for it looks like to be a elephant gun punch, or a elephant pistol, I should say. But Bonnie kicks him, and then when Luffy's like, what are you doing? What's going on? And she's like, that's her dad. And obviously they didn't realize that's who Bonnie was talking about, because they all go, what? He's, and then she says, he's the only family I've got. So pretty much her mom is dead, and she was posing as her mom in Mary Joie all the way back, I think, Act 3, before Act 3 started. In Wano, she was posing as Queen Dowager of Sorbet Kingdom. A dowager is a widow of a powerful man, or a man with great inheritance. And so she was posing as her mom. When you said your dad was turned into a cyborg, this is Chopper. And then Jinbei says, you were talking about Kuma? And so, she says, I'm begging you, please don't hurt my daddy. And so, even though she knows it's just a pacifista, it's her dad. Like, that's what she's seeing. And so, she doesn't even want to see Luffy fight her robotic, non-dad pacifista. And so Luffy is telling her to, to like move. It's just a pacifista. But then there's a gigantic explosion. Like, this is like one of the biggest explosions I think I've ever seen a PX unit produce, because it blows up the part of the island that Luffy, Jinbei, and Chopper and Bonnie crawled up to on the ladder. And then right after that, this is basically the hypest moment of the chapter, is we get to see Law's submarine is under attack. We don't get to see the flagship of the ship bombing them, but we do see Zehahaha, that's Blackbeard's signature laugh. We know that's how his ships look, with the two logs and the rest of the actual ship in the middle. Law's ship is being bombed. There's holes in it, and so the guy is saying that they have to surface, otherwise they're going to be crushed. And then Law somehow ends up gender bent. We learn later on why he is. Then his whole crew is gender bent by it. But then Law says, "It'll be fine. Our clashes with the Emperor's taught me that devil fruit powers can be countered if you use a great deal of haki." And so we see him charge up and use his haki. He reverts back to his original self. Then they surface. And then Doc Q was like, oh, he's managed to, take care of, the actual disease. Whatever disease it was turned Law and his crew into women. And then we get to find out that Doc Q has a sick fruit. Von Augur has a warp fruit. Jesus Burgess has a buff fruit, because he's able to pick up this giant mountain top and throw it at Law's crew. Obviously, Law uses his room to counter it and breaks it apart. And then, Law also mentions that the reason why their bounties are going up, because they keep on stealing devil fruit powers. So we don't know who they're stealing them from, But apparently it's enough to bring Blackbeard. I think Blackbeard was 2.2 billion. Now he's 3.9 billion. So it's a pretty big deal what they're doing. And so, Blackbeard is there for Law's poneglyphs. He's like, he asked Law, how many rubbings does he have? And obviously Law, I don't know if he has the Fisherman Island. No, the first time we learned about the rub poneglyphs was Zoe. So I don't know if Law took the one of Zoe, but I know Luffy got Zoe, Whole Cake Island, and Kaido's rubbing. So Law should at least have Zoe and Wano. But maybe Luffy gave him the Zoe rubbing as well. I mean, not the Zoe rubbing, the Whole Cake Island rubbing as well. So maybe Law has all three. We don't know. But yeah, man. And then they're like, they're gonna fight. Winner takes all. So he's not there to steal Law's fruit. He's just there to steal the poneglyph rubbings. I definitely believe Law will end up choosing his crew. He'll let Blackbeard get the rubbings, but he'll take his crew in his submarine. Because it seems like Law's crew is gonna patch up. I know I'm kind of jumping around, but I just have a lot of thoughts. It seems like Law's crew might be busy focusing on fixing the submarine, while Law tussles with the Blackbeard pirates for a little bit. Once he realizes that they fixed it, he'll shambles his crew away, but leave behind the poneglyph rubbings, or maybe he'll dupe them into believing that they're the poneglyph rubbings, but they're actually not. And he and his crew would get away. But yeah, man, it is. I don't even know how Blackbeard found his crew, because if his crew is underwater, what type of sonar ability does Blackbeard may have on the ship? How did he find out Law and them were there? Do one of them have a sonar devil fruit ability? Crazy. But I'll say one thing to highlight is that Jesus Burgess, I guess whatever Sabo did to his face, it seemingly turned half of his face into a cyborg, because there's metal. Like, he has a real eye, then a false eye, then half of his jaw is steel or iron, and the other half is flesh and blood. So yeah, whatever Sabo did to his face seems to have left permanent damage on Jesus Burgess. And so, as I said, this is just a fun chapter to read and go through. I know I've been inconsistent. I'm working on getting better. But as I said, I'm not sick anymore. I'm finally done with the allergies. I feel great, and I'm going to get back on the grind. I should be before y'all again. If there are any noticeable differences in the Viz translation, I'll release a small update video, but if not, I'll probably just type it out in the comment section. But that'll do it for me. I will see you guys in the next video. Madara signing out.